Hey everyone, welcome back to a sim racing experience. My name's Jose and I'm a sim racer here in Miami. Today I wanted to get into 5 things that I do every single day, and these are things that I do to challenge my mental health. I always want to make sure that I'm challenging my mental health because it's what strengthens it, and it's what helps me become a much stronger person, a much more confident person. And now with the simulator as a tool, it's what I mainly use to be able to achieve a much better mental health. And what better metaphor to use than racing, when it comes to actually challenging something. I think that racing is such a massive challenge in so many different aspects, and just being able to use that to also challenge myself as a human being and use it as something that is extremely positive and use it as something that really helps me become a better person and just feel better. Not a better person for anybody else, but a better person for me. And I have to deal with myself for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I always want to make sure that I'm at my best so that it's always the easiest for me to deal with myself. Sometimes it's not easy to deal with myself just because of the anxiety or the depression, and it's stuff that I go through, and it's stuff that I've accepted, and it's stuff that I need to go through. But now I know that I have tools and that I have different outlets to get out of it a lot faster than I used to. The first thing that comes to mind is the whole emotion of fear. And I've seen a lot of people talk about it on Reddit, and the whole emotion of fear, I think it's very real. I think that a lot of people have fears of, many different reasons, whether it's being passed on track. If you're still a rookie and you're on track with somebody that's a lot faster, you're gonna have people coming at you from all different angles, and it's a little overwhelming at the beginning because you don't really know what to expect, you don't know how to react. So the way that I challenge that is by actually going out there and just trying different things and trying different cars and different tracks. Obviously it's a simulator, so that if you crash there's no risk of you actually hurting yourself, but there is this entire thing where if you're on iRacing, you're going to affect your safety rating, it could affect your licenses, and it could affect your entire overall experience based on how you're actually driving. So I find it really important to be safe about it. So the idea with challenging the whole idea of fear is that the more I challenge it, the more I get to know it, and the easier it becomes to adapt to it, and the easier it is to deal with it, to the point that whatever was scaring me at that moment, it goes away, and I can move on to something else, and I can move on to something else that might scare me even more, so that I can continue to grow and continue to progress. This emotion is what really drives me to get on the sim every single day, and it's the emotion of euphoria. And I think that this is definitely the reason that I got into motorsport. I think it's the reason that I continued to pursue motorsport, and unfortunately I can't afford it to actually go do it. But now on the simulator, I think for me, for the type of person that I am, I almost prefer this over actual motorsport. Now that I'm able to do this, I get to feel that euphoria whenever I want. Obviously it's a lot of work because you have to get better and you have to be consistent, and you only feel that euphoria when I only feel that euphoria when I'm at my best. So it's intense, and it's a lot of fun when it actually happens. There's no feeling for me when you're coming around the last corner right before you're about to cross the finish line, and you're in first place and you won the race. I mean, there's nothing that has put a smile on my face like that. So it's really a huge emotion for me, and it's something that it's the reason that I continue to practice so much and put so much time into it, so that I can just feel that euphoria more and more whenever I want. Something else I saw on Reddit was that somebody was talking about anxiety, and I did a video on it a little while ago, so I'll just touch base on it again. The idea of anxiety, specifically at the beginning of a race. Right now I just installed all new gear on the rig, so the clutch, the pedal operated clutch is different, and so is the hand operated clutch for the Formula cars. So all of that, it's like I'm learning how to drive with a clutch again, and just getting used to the bite point and getting used to the spring, and just how it's releasing and how much pressure is releasing. So it's really interesting. It's a lot of fun trying to get to know it again. It's like I'm having to practice all over again just to get smooth on that. So I'm really excited to have that become second nature, just like a real clutch in real life has become second nature to me. That's going to be fun. I think it's going to be really cool with the Formula car, just to be able to pull the paddle and just be able to launch the car right with the paddle. That's gonna be pretty fun. And the best way that I challenge that is by actively going out on track now and practicing my race starts just like they do in real life, and just go into a test session or a private session or something, and just go in there and launch the car over and over and over, and just count down in your head or use a timer or something and just launch the car. And that's what I continue to do. That's what I continue to practice. And everything else that tends to cause anxiety, it's minor things that I just end up having to work around and end up having to just get better at it. And it's just a matter of feeling more confident and feeling more comfortable around it. And then the anxiety kind of goes away. You know, I think that for somebody like me and for people that deal with anxiety on a general basis, the anxiety is always going to be there. It's just now it becomes, at least for me, a little bit easier to deal with having a little bit more of this knowledge. This one's a little weird because it almost doesn't even make sense, but sometimes, believe it or not, I've become disoriented on track, and this tends to happen if I'm having a bad day or something. You know, at the end of the day, it's just a simulator, and it's not something that I do on a career basis, and it's not something that I get a whole lot of, you know, massive practice in like a real driver would. So the idea of becoming disoriented, as weird as it sounds, it's happened in the past where I get into a zone and I'm driving around the track, going around and around, and something could happen where there's like a break in that zone, and what ends up happening is I have to like quickly try to reset my mind to figure out where I'm at on track and what corner's coming up next, so that I can quickly reposition the car and not get an off track or crash the car and end up, you know, ruining my entire race. Something like this is very difficult to challenge because it's not like you can practice, you know, different situations. It's just situational. It really just depends on what happens. You know, a car can cut in front of you, or a car could spin, or, you know, somebody could hit you and you have to recover. There's a lot of different variables, so it's just, I think the best way to challenge that is just to continue trying to get better at driving. And every time there's some sort of accident or there's some sort of spin or something that just doesn't feel right, it's a matter of being conscious about it so that you can catch it and start practicing how to react, really. Because going back to when I first started, going over the off tracks and going over the grass, it was for sure a spin out. And now I can at least, if I'm going off track, I can at least quickly change my mind to realize that I'm driving over the grass so that I can recover the car and actually keep going. And with that, there's a lot of other things that I can just do in my day-to-day just to help me on my concentration and help me on my focus in general, so that when I get on the sim, I take all of these different influences that have been around me, so that once I'm in that moment that I need to focus, I have all these tools around me to be able to help me get to that focus point. And this last thing is, I think, something that everybody struggles with. And I've had friends that have told me that they've wanted to get into sim racing. It's just that they tell me that also that they tend to lose focus within a couple of laps and their mind strays away, and that's really where the problems begin. And that's when you start losing the consistency, and it doesn't feel fun anymore when you're out there driving and you're super inconsistent and you're crashing, and nobody wants to do that. So of course that's just going to lead to more than likely not wanting to continue sim racing. Losing focus also can really mess up your race in a matter of an instant. And again, it goes back to getting into that zone, and if there's a break in that zone and you lose that focus, chances are you're gonna have to recover, and you're gonna have to quickly shift your mind to be able to recover quickly and just get back into that zone immediately, so that you can get back to your consistency and continue to set consistent laps. And if you lost positions, you can start fighting back towards the front or back towards wherever you were. So the best way to challenge that is just to keep practicing on focusing and really keep practicing on what it is that I'm doing. And even when I'm outside of the sim, I think that the hardest thing that I had to learn was living in the moment and that goes to the sim as well. When I'm in the race, I'm trying very hard not to think about my outside life. It's the only time that this thing is not in my mind. And I have it here right now just because sometimes when I'm recording these videos, I want to have notes here, and I want to be able to just reference it so that I get all my points across properly. But the simulator is the only time where I forget that I have a phone, and it's very, very nice. Even if it's for 10 minutes, it's quite nice to just be able to turn that off. But with that being said, I also have to remember that I am human and that some things can't be turned off no matter what you do. And it could be very easy to lose focus in the middle of a race. And I think that the best way to challenge that is just to continue to practice on my focus and continue to focus on living in the moment and being in the moment. There's some days for me where it's extremely tough to get focused, and I do terrible in the simulator, and it's just, you just want to click quit and get out and just go back to doing something else because it doesn't feel fun. But I always end up getting back into it. Even yesterday when I set up all of the gear, getting used to all of it, it was weird at first just because I'm coming from a totally different setup, and now with the pedal and the load cell and just the different paddles and the weight of the wheel, everything feels completely different. So I was too focused on the gear and how the gear was feeling and how it was vibrating, and I wasn't focusing on driving the car. So yesterday was a pretty rough day during most of my races. But now that I feel a little bit better, and every time that I get in, I feel better and better. So that confidence is quickly starting to come back, and it's starting to feel fun. So it's definitely on and off days with the simulator, and it's definitely on and off days with my confidence, and it's pretty clear. I mean, you can see my levels of confidence if you see my driving, and if you see how I'm driving that day, you can almost see what kind of a day I had, and it's pretty funny. I mean, sometimes in the middle of a race it could be tough to just go through that emotion, and then you're angry and all that stuff, but I know that when I get out of the simulator, it's just funny because I can go back to my real life and just laugh it off, and it always ends up well, and there's always the next day to get on, get a fresh race in, and everything is good. So that's gonna be it. I will see you in the next one. See you later.